Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more 3D printed goodness. You guys know that I'm a huge advocate of 3D printing and adding more variety and style to your armies using 3D printed assets. I just think it's fantastic and think it's going to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. Anyone who knows me also knows that my favorite Chaos God is Nurgle, therefore one of my favorite Chaos Space Marines is Death Guard. So when Den of Imagination, an awesome 3D printing company, reached out to me and asked me to do a video based on their stuff this month, there really was only one set of miniatures I could request. And that was, of course, their awesome Death Guard line. Now, Games Workshop do beautiful Death Guard infantry, so do Den of Imagination, not taking anything away from them. You can order those and use them all you want. But the thing that Games Workshop does not do is an amazing selection of vehicles for the Death Guard. There's, of course, one or two, but if I want to put a Predator, a Land Raider, or a Rhino in my army, I don't want a standard unblemished Rhino painted green and then call it a Death Guard tank. That doesn't do it for me. I want to make it look special and I want it to blend in with my gnarled army. And that's where today's video is going to come into effect, because I've chosen to print out one of the awesome new Predator tanks that they have released. I'll stand in for a Predator tank, which is all nurglified. It is awesome. It has magnetized options, which I am going to use, so I can change it out for a standard Predator or Predator Annihilator with the las cannons. Have all those options painted up and ready to go. So this is going to be a fun video, guys. So hopefully you stick around and enjoy it. Before I go into though, I just want to say a huge thank you to my patrons. Without you guys, I really could not continue doing this. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. If you're interested in checking it out yourself, as always, it's linked down in the description below. You get access to a private Discord server and an extra vlog style video from me every single day to keep you guys up to date with what's happening in my channel. Okay guys, without further ado, let's dive in and get this tank painted. Okay, so here are the bits and pieces fresh off the printer. They have been washed before I touch them, so don't be worrying about that. So here is the quality of the prints, and as you can see, they're stellar. Still loads of supports to remove that in between the tracks and stuff. I'm going to get around to that now in a second. Very pleased with how they printed and how they work. As you can see, this is the modular sponson options for the Predator. So you get the option, of course, the las cannons and the heavy bolter options, which is the traditional equipment used by Predators. Both of them are great. They fit like a dream. All I need to do is do a little bit of light sanding on them just to make sure they fit snug and they don't protrude at all. As you can see, they already come with holes designed inside them for 3x5mm magnets, which allowed me, and I had those to hand, so it allowed me to immediately kind of clean up, prep, and get these parts magnetized. All you do is a little drop of super glue, drop a 3x5 magnet into the hole, and think of the polarities before you go messing around. I always like to think of it like one side is everything that sticks to the tank and the other side is the tank. And if you can figure that out, then you know what I mean. So as you can see, here's an example of one side with the magnets all done. As you can see, all filed down, so the heavy bolter just drops into place. It's so super secure, it's not gonna fall out or anything like that. It blends into the whole tank beautifully because of the way it's designed. And the same thing with swapping it out for the las cannon. It only takes a couple of seconds and it's beautiful. So once all the parts have been fully cleaned up, I have assembled it to this point. So the main hull has been assembled. Everything else I'm going to leave separate to make it a little bit easier for myself when it comes to the painting process. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a big Death Guard fan. I have quite a large and substantial Death Guard army, but I've always kind of shunned away from using them a lot because I didn't have access to many tanks. So I am very happy now to finally be adding Predators and of course a Land Raider. I'm going to show off some pictures of their awesome new Land Raider they're showing off at the end of the video as well, so make sure you check that out. If you're a fan of Death Guard or Nurgle and want to check it out for yourself, yeah, just be a little bit patient. I promise it'll be worth it. This is going to be a fun video where I just play around with a bunch of stuff, try and make it look as funky and as Death Guardy as possible. Lots of trial and error. But I think I made some pretty slick decisions and I think it turns out pretty nice in the end. So the first thing after I sprayed it black was to give it a zenithal of like a grey, any kind of darkish grey, to add a little bit of volume to the piece before I go with any colour. After that, Death Guard green base colour, and I applied this to the hull of the tank. And as you can see, I'm being a little bit cagey. I'm not trying to get like one, block solid colour of green across the thing. I need it to be a light spray. I want to leave behind some of that dark grey in the recesses to create some more shadow and shading. And that's one of the funnest things about using the airbrush is you can get that kind of control going and have a lot of fun with the painting process. You can build it up layer by layer, going less and less each time until the model really pops. Pops being the key word was kind of the first thing that I played around with, because obviously I did do the Death Guard green first. And then I jumped up to basically the next color along from Death Guard green, which is nurgle green. And it was fine. It just was like, I know it's like the correct color for Death Guard, or at least the correct color as Games Workshop sees it for Death Guard, but I just never really liked the really grim beigey green color that they decided to do for Death Guard. I always wanted something that, you know, popped and screamed and, like, you know, looked toxic on the table. I love those kind of Nurgle armies. I was struggling with it. I was going to try and do this as simple as possible for you guys, but eventually I decided to just abandon it. Not abandon it, I decided to add an extra layer on top of it, which made the colors just pop. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. I think it was the right decision. But you guys can let me know in the comments below if you think it was the right decision or whether you think I made a mess of it. I'd also like to hear your experiences with Den of Imagination. Have you guys a member of their Patreon? Have you guys been getting their files? Have you been printing off and painting up some of their miniatures? I would love to know some awesome stories about their stuff. What your favorite piece is. Obviously, I'm just kind of scratching the surface of what's available. Even before recording this voice bit here, I was on their Instagram going back through some of their previous stuff to see if there's anything that I need to talk about or cover, and they do have such a wide variety of miniatures. I love the giant vehicle they gave for their Leagues of Votann stands in. I love the guard stuff. Those jump infantry look incredible. The guys on the motorbikes are awesome. Their Tyrannid style is awesome. Like, it's just so good. Now, this is where I got a little bit crazy. I decided to break out Mantis Warrior Green Contrast and just go over the really grim. I basically used the grim beigey color as a base coat and hit it with this toxic green. And it did the treat. It's not going to stay this bright and vibrant. Once it dries, it's going to dull itself down just a smidge, but it is going to stay more in this realm of green. This, like I said, that toxic looking green. And I think Death Guard on a table should look toxic. It shouldn't look drab and boring. It is magically infused Chaos Space Marines. You know, a patron god has blessed them with all the kind of horrible contagions and all those other bits and pieces. I think it's okay for them to glow a little bit of fluorescence to them, helping them kind of pop and stand out. It's a lot of fun. Now, sometimes I will not show you some of the other pieces that I'm painting off camera. Like if I'm painting the green hull, I may not show you painting the green on all of the bits and pieces. But just know, as I go along, this is being done on the full hull, the turret, 4 sponsons, and 2 barrels for the thing. So I'm going to get all those bits and pieces done. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces in total. I'm going to soldier through and get done. Now it's time for my bit that I do really like with the Games Workshop style, and that's coming in with that kind of really reddy, winey color for all the sores and all the kind of leaky bits and all that, like intestine-y bits. So I started with Volupus Pink Contrast. Like I said, it's going over a slightly duller coat than you would normally start a contrast with, but it works as a perfect base coat to kind of get that color down. It tends to be my go-to thing is contrast I use for base coats. Any of you out there that have watched a bunch of my videos know that already, but for anyone new here, I like to think of contrast as the easiest and fastest way to get base coats on your miniature. It saves so much time, gets you to a very simple tabletop standard. Here's me using a tweezer to pick out a support that I forgot. If you're a 3D printer, you'll also know my pain there. No matter how hard you try, no matter how scrupulous you think you are, you will always find supports that you missed along the way. Let's just hope they don't end up being in an obvious place that is going to leave it behind a mark. For me, luckily it was tucked in behind the sponson heavy boulder. So I pull it out and no harm, no foul. From here, we're going to go up to Screamer Pink and use this as the first highlight for all those bits. As you can see, working fast, adding a quick line highlight, layer highlight. Layer. I'll get the highlight in a minute. I'll get the wording right on these videos at some stage, but you know, some stage. It's fine. Don't worry. Yeah, like I said, Screamer Pink, and as you can see, I'm hitting all the raised areas of the kind of goopy bits that is bleeding through the cracks in the hull of this thing, some of the horrible growths, and just nastiness, which I love. I love this process, and I've always loved the contrast between the kind of crazy green and the crazy pink that you can get on the Death Guard. I think it really makes the models pop. Otherwise, it's just going to look too, like we're going to do all the rusty chains and all that kind of stuff in a minute, and like the green, like the rust doesn't make anything pop. It's a dulling color, and rust is 90% brown, and brown's not something that you pay an awful lot of attention to when you're looking at a piece. So if I hadn't have added in these pink stages, I don't think the piece would have turned out nice. I think my War Dolly tank is going to look way better for adding in and spending a little bit more time layering up these kind of pinky parts. And like I said, even though I don't show it, I am going through and doing these on all the other weapons as well, making sure that all that goop matches and they look well together. I have actually packed away my Death Guard a little while ago. I needed a space on one of the shelves for them, so painting up this tank has maybe slightly inspired me to perhaps break them out and get some painting done on the infantry. And get all my Poxwalkers actually built. I've got quite a lot of them, but I need some more variety, and I've now also seen the Den of Imagination Poxwalkers that they've brought out. So I think it's a good idea to print off a couple of sets of those just to sprinkle through my collection and break up the, give yourself more variety. And that's another great thing about 3D printing stuff. Like, it doesn't always have to be a replacement too. I always love when it accents and helps the range along. So the aesthetics match enough that it looks great next to a traditional army. And even in units, you can mix and match stuff. So the idea of printing off 20 Poxwalkers from these guys and sprinkling them throughout the units just to, blend them on, make them look a little bit more unique, I think it's fantastic. Can't wait to do it. Pink horror is the final highlight. I went a little bit overboard when I first started applying it there, but it's fine. This is, like I said, once again, just adding that speck of color to the tank that isn't green, which I think is super important. And it's quite an enjoyable stage. I don't know what it is, but I always enjoy layering miniatures. I just find it to be kind of relaxing, kind of therapeutic, especially on things that are more natural. Not saying that the goop that spills out of the side of the cracks in a Death Guard tank is natural, but you know what I mean. It's not like flat panels. Flat panel layering can be a little bit boring. Anything that's natural, like skin or hair, fur, all that, I love it. And as you can see, I'm taking my time trying to figure out where to place those highlights. Where's the light going to hit it the most? Why would it be the brightest there? And all those other bits and pieces that you need to take into consideration when painting anything these days. In a Death Guard army, do you reckon a Predator is a good choice? Do you think I should have multiple Predators? What's the layout I should give a Predator? I mean, for me, I'm always the kind of person who's like, cheap and chips is good, autocannons and heavy bolters. I used to run 3 of those in my old Space Marine army. And they were awesome. The Predator Annihilators. Predator Destructors. No, the Annihilators were the heavy bolter and autocannon, and the Annihilators were the Predators with the las cannons. But Death Guard are quite heavy in points, quite elite, maybe playing into that idea, quite an old legion. They would actually still feel lots of las cannon toting ones. I think the las cannon one is a little bit nicer. The barrel coming out of the actual turret itself has lots of those kind of pinky growths and stuff on it too, which helps it blend in. The actual autocannon variant, I don't think has a lot of that going on. A little bit upsetting, but that's fine. We'll make it work. Silver on all the silver details. Now, originally I did try and airbrush a little bit of brown. I didn't include that in the video because it was another bit that just kind of fell down. I couldn't keep it neat. It wasn't working for me. So yeah, I just ignored that stage. Didn't even include the footage. And then I'm going to break out the dirty down rust and just apply a nice sloppy coat of this all over the metallics. This is going to dry and turn rusty. Look really cool. I'm also dragging it down the hull a little bit to create a few kind of watermarks down the hull. And any bits like that. It's a very simple thing. If you haven't seen how it works, I've done a whole video on how to use this rust stuff. I don't use it an awful lot because it smells really bad. I recommend if you do decide to pick this up and use it, wear a mask. Quite pungent. But you make sure to not only shake the bottle an awful lot, but you also want to open the pot and then get something down into the very bottom of the pot and stir it around quite a lot, just to kind of make the mix properly. And then you basically just apply a heavy coat of it to your metallics, and as it dries, it's going to turn into that kind of rusty look. The stuff was originally created for special effects in movies, and then somebody obviously brought it along to the miniature painting world and put it in tiny adorable bottles, and people have been using it ever since. I'm also going to be playing around with some of their moss later in this video. Just add a little bit more kind of ick to the tank. Not that Death Guard give anybody the ick. Pfft, Death Guard are awesome. Okay, so once all of that rust has dried, you need to wait a little while for it to dry fully because it does kind of cure and change a little bit. I obviously grab a lead belcher again and I give basically the entire tank a little dry brush of that. It catches all the edges of the silver, helps it look a bit more scuffed, a little bit more natural. And then obviously going over the green hull, it's okay to chip the edges and create those little micro scratches that's going to happen across the hull. This tank is very old. This tank may have trundled across the plains of Terra and assaulting the Imperial Palace during the Horse Heresy, for all you know. That's how old some of these pieces can be. Varied and legendary stories. So I don't think any of them is going to have this pristine paint job. So scratches and scuffs and all sorts of in between is really helpful for adding that to a tank. And here I am with the moss, exactly the same thing. Shake the hell out of it, and then you're gonna stir the bottom of it, and then I'm gonna use it for all the sores and all those other bits and pieces, and then I'm gonna fill it in with all the kind of nooks and crannies and crevices and all the bits that water would settle into this. I'm gonna have a little bit of like gnarly kind of moss growing out of it. It's not gonna stand out too much, but it's just gonna change the texture of the hull. Right now I think the hull is a little bit too green. I don't think there's enough variety in the color itself. The pink did help, the rust did help, but it's still just a little bit too much of the same color. I was tempted to break out my weathering powders and apply this to this tank, but I do get given out to a lot in the comments that I go overboard with weathering powders. I love them though. So after this video, I'll probably gonna go back and do it, hence why I haven't actually touched the tracks yet. You notice the tracks are still just silver. That's because I plan on doing lots of weathering powder with them. So once that bit has been applied and dried, we have our very quick, very accessible and very awesome looking Death Guard tank fully painted. Here I am slapping the parts into place. So here's the las cannon option. Look how seamlessly it just blends in with the tank. And with the magnets, it's held in place super firm. So we have the hull, we have our turret, and like I said, we're going to add in the las cannons into the top, the twin las cannons. And it just screws in. And as you can see, because that has the really nice kind of growthy pink stuff going on, it really helps to make it pop. I would have liked some of that pink stuff on the actual turret itself as well. I don't know why they didn't design, like if you can see, it's busting out of the hull all over the place, but the hull, the turret is a little bit too pristine. I would have liked that, but live and learn. And then once we swap over for the heavy bolters, I really like the heavy bolters. I think the growths on those are even better again because it kind of grows up and over. It really adds that pop of pink that I love in the color. But then once again, the turret I find is just a little bit, it's just missing that pink. I just want it somewhere. So maybe I need to sculpt on some goopy stuff and add some pink to it. But I really like the final result of this Predator. I think it looks absolutely awesome. Here's an example of some of the other things that Den of Imagination are bringing out in the near future. I think the files are already available for these. So their stand-in for a defiler is awesome. It looks way more like a Plague Hulk than a standard defiler that I never really liked. So very happy with that, and they may very well print one of those out as well. And then of course we have the awesome new Land Raider. It's got a big belching gnarly mouth at the front. It's got smoke billowing out of the pipes at the back. All nurglified. It's incredible. I'm definitely printing this off and getting it built. And here's some final shots of my finished first Den of Imagination miniature. I'm really happy with the result. So yeah, final thoughts. Den of Imagination, pretty good. Pretty happy with the service. Pretty happy with the design and the sculpting and all that. So they get a big thumbs up from me. Okay guys, there we have it. The finished Predator for my Death Guard army. I'm super pleased with it. There's still one or two extra details that I'm sure I can get stuck into, like the lights. Get a bit of airbrush glow effect on those. I need to find out what I'm going to do with the top hatch as well. The reason I didn't glue it in is I'm not sure whether I want to put Tank Commander at the top of it. I had this idea of like a dead plague zombie just kind of hung over and dead, like the original old Tank Commander. It's still just hanging there. So I might try and add something cool like that. But other than that, super pleased with the final result. I love the ability to just take the heavy bolter off and slap a las cannon on. It's ready to be an entirely different Predator. I will definitely be printing off more of these guys. I think 3 of them would be correct. They've also just announced a Land Raider, and there's no way in hell that I'm passing up the opportunity to do a Death Guard Land Raider for my army. My Death Shrouds definitely need something to ride around in style. Thank you so much to Den of Imagination for reaching out and asking me to do this video for them. Hopefully I can do more videos for them in the near future. If you want to check them out, they're linked down below. There's also a nice little discount code linked there as well. So if you go check that out, you'll be able to avail of their bundles and save yourself a little bit of money as well, and get stuck into the awesome products that come from them. So make sure you check them out, guys. Okay, make sure you do the usual things, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.